and welcome to the B Conference 2020. We are excited and a little bit nervous to bring this conference to life. In other years, this has been a full day in-person gathering where I, as the editor-in-chief of TheWrap, Sharon Waxman, for those who don't know me, we get to meet all of you and meet new people, and you all get to make connections. And, you know, a lot of organizations are canceling their events right now. But at Wrap Women, we all felt that at a time of challenge and overwhelming change, we didn't want to pass up the chance to push forward together. Discussion, learning, mentorship, and connection in the service of becoming the best version of yourself with or without a pandemic. That is what B Conference is about. And now is the time. So we've expanded B as an all virtual event, and we're thrilled to welcome all of you to 5 days of activities this week, including in the evenings. You'll get to hear speakers on confidence and empowerment, on becoming a powerhouse storyteller, on growing inclusion in entertainment, on entrepreneurship, and how to be a boss with a capital B. So our first panel today is going to feature some on-screen superheroes. We have with us the Arrow star, Katherine McNamara, the star of Outer Banks, Madison Bailey, the star of Pose, Haley Sahar, and the star of Legends of Tomorrow, Maisie Richardson-Sellers. They'll be talking about finding confidence and owning your career with our moderator, Wrap TV reporter, Jenny Maas. And after that panel, you can discuss what you learned and meet other attendees on our Wrap Connect Slack channel. And you should, if you're a ticket holder, you should have a login for that. Later today, I will be doing a one-on-one talk with Eva Longoria, whose journey from small town Corpus Christi, Texas, to becoming the powerful actress, director, and producer we all know is a model for what is possible today. And she will also be with us live. So while we're not here together in person, here is the exciting part. B Conference in the virtual age has grown to something like 3 times the scale of what we've ever been able to do in person. More than 700 of you have registered to take part in our panels and our Q&As and in mentorship this week. The context here is that the entertainment industry is changing for the better. The national conversation demanding a change to systemic racism is penetrating entertainment and media in a way we haven't seen before. And at every company in Hollywood, individuals are looking back at their own histories. We are reconsidering TV shows and movies of the past. They're looking at the green light process and at who gets the chance to participate. And they're asking, whose voices have been missing? And in so many cases, the answer is voices of color and of women. So this means opportunity for all of you. And many Hollywood companies have stepped forward to support this event and have stated their commitment to help you on your career journey. So let's make sure that you have the chance to raise your voice, raise your hand, find a mentor, and find the story you want to tell. In doing this, we would really like to thank our nonprofit partners who've helped inaugurate this first virtual B Conference and really helped us sharpen our focus on understanding the needs and the ambitions of women of color. Those groups include Color of Change, Latinx House, and La Collab. We also couldn't do this without our underwriting sponsors, including Imagine Entertainment, Spotify, Audible, the Gotham Group, Blumhouse Productions, AMC Networks, Maggie Begley Communications, Participant, and Homegrown Pictures. Thanks to them, we've been able to offer more than 100 mentorship slots to our attendees. So that's it. We'll be tweeting all week at hashtag BCon2020. Please join the fun there and share the stuff that you love and you learn. And now onward to B Conference 2020. Welcome.
Thank you so much for that, Sharon. Hi, everyone in our Wrap Women community. I'm Jenny Maas, TV reporter at TheWrap. Welcome to B Conference. We're excited to kick off the event with this panel, Confidence and Empowerment, Owning Your Inner Superhero. To make sure that you just understand how this is all going to work, I'll be speaking with the panelists for about 40 minutes. Afterwards, we'll be taking questions from you guys for about 20 minutes. And if you want to participate, just add your questions in the comment section to the right of your screen, and the WRap team will post the questions as we go for the panelists to answer. After the panel, if you use an all access pass ticket, you're able to join the Slack conversation we're having about any insights or thoughts you have about the panel afterwards. If you haven't purchased one of those, you can go to bconferences.com to get one now. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our panelists that we have with us today. Madison Bailey from Outer Banks and Black Lightning. Jessica Marie Garcia from On My Block and Diary of a Future President, Katherine McNamara from Arrow and Shadowhunters, and Maisie Richardson-Sellers from Legends of Tomorrow and Kissing Booth 2. Thank you so much for joining me today, guys.
Thank
Thank
you
you for having us. All right. Well, I want to kick off this panel with asking all of you, what makes for a superhero in a character to you on screen? And if there's some examples, I know some of you, but not all of you have played superheroes. But if you can use examples that aren't your characters.
I think something for me that's always attracted me to characters that I've looked up to growing up, and then even now, are characters that have the balance between strength and vulnerability. They strive for the best, and yet they make mistakes along the way, but it's about how they recover from those mistakes and how they learn from them. So, Sandra Oh's character on Grey's Anatomy, and, even all the way to Viola Davis's character and how to get away with murder, and Mulan and Pocahontas, if we're talking Disney princesses. Throughout my life, I've always sought out these characters, and to have had the pleasure to have played a few that are in that vein as well, it's been a real honor.
Definitely. I think, the simple acts of greatness, be that within the superhero realm where you are literally saving the world, or, for me, the heroes I love are often sort of real life stories that are told in films, like Martin Luther King in Selma, or, Frida Kahlo and Frida, like these films whereby you see someone who is thrown from normality into an extraordinary situation, and how they deal with that and how they put themselves sort of second to the cause that they're trying to lead is what, for me, is the most inspiring kind of hero.
I'm like, Madison, you're next.
One of you can go first, or can go next.
Yeah, you got it.
Oh, I mean, at least for me, I haven't had the pleasure of playing an actual crime-fighting superhero. But for me, I feel a superhero is being one's authentic self and not apologizing for who they are and what they're not. And for me, that's watching Poise. That's watching Insecure. Just seeing, every side and every dimension of a human and having them, fully embrace who that is and be proud of who they are. I feel like that to me is a superhero.
Absolutely. Definitely on somebody who is being their true self and being so unapologetic for who they are and owning their space and not being afraid to take up room and overcoming obstacles with your head held high.
Getting the opportunity to play women like this, I want to know how it affects you in your personal life. And if you feel like having the opportunity to play these women who have confidence and empowerment gives you that strength, you think, in your own personal life when you're not on screen.
Anyone? I think.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, personally, it makes me really step it up, because you see the strength of these women and just, like you were saying, how unapologetic they are, how inspiring they are, but also how all of that is second to the cause, to the purpose. And I think that's a really good way to live your life, whereby, the work and using your platform in a way that is informative and, helping the movement of social progression is so important rather than it ever becoming about you. So I think it's been a really humbling experience for me. And also through being lucky enough to play a superhero, I've met so many real life superheroes as well along the way, among the fandom, like hearing the incredible stories that people have been through and what they've triumphed through, and, you know, the way they've inspired and moved so many people. So it's given me the opportunity to grow and become better, I think.
Yeah.
I completely agree. It comes with a sense of, you know, to quote Spider-Man, responsibility, in that you have these people getting to travel and meet all of the incredible fans at the Comic-Cons and hear all of their stories. They look to these characters as examples. And so now that, you know, a lot of us live very public lives on social media and everything else, it is a sense of responsibility to use that platform to talk about things that matter and to try and, if nothing else, spread a little bit of positivity in the world. Also, physically, I have had to train for a lot of these roles, which is something that I was always a dancer, but I never actually physically trained or did martial arts or any of that before these jobs. And having that sensibility completely changed my life for the better in a health standpoint. So getting to talk about that as well, it's sort of just changed my entire world in so many ways, and exposed me to amazing people and incredible stories and opportunities to try and spread some good.
Definitely. I think it's really special to be able to play such a confident and strong character, because I get to bring my own confidence and bring my own strength to that character and make her twice as strong. And I know I play a young character on screen, and it's important. I think it's really awesome to see such a strong character on the show, and then people be able to follow me and then see my platform and see that translated into real life, and to see that confidence in how that shapes my character, not just my character, but who I am.
Absolutely. I know that whenever I get the opportunity to play Jasmine, I always feel like I'm holding so many young girls on my shoulders, because I get these messages all the time that are just like, I finally feel like I see myself in a character, and I get to be a love interest, and I get to be a lead in my own story. And I think for so many of us, this is the first time we're actually seeing ourselves on screen. So it is a lot of responsibility that we take on in order to make sure that we're telling these stories authentically, and that, you know, we're making people proud of what we're doing. And yeah, it's kind of nerve-wracking, but also it's very empowering. And I think I've become a more confident person through playing Jasmine.
I want to know if there are significant differences between the characters that you all have had an opportunity to play during your career and the way you saw similar roles growing up or before your time, and what those changes are for the better, maybe for you guys, what you think, how they're written now versus what maybe you saw when you were younger, and changes that you see in who you get to play versus who might have been in a teen drama or superhero drama when you were watching them younger.
If I could jump in, is that okay?
That's good. Go ahead. Yeah.
I know for me, like I grew up watching, 90s TV shows, and there was always like, that geeky, nerdy girl or boy who, everyone thought was annoying. And then they were like, oh, this person. And then they would, say something and leave, like your Kimmy Gibblers, your Screeches, your Urkels. And then for me, I was always like, oh yeah, they're the annoying character, even though I secretly loved them more than anybody. And then now getting the opportunity to play a character that so many thought was, maybe loud or obnoxious or annoying, and now they get to see different sides of her. And not many shows have allowed you to, really go home with those characters and see that these are real personalities and these are real souls that, are dealing with a lot at home. And that's why they, they portray these characters in order for you not to, break those walls they've built up. So I'm just incredibly thankful that, we're doing that now. We're exploring those stories. There are no side characters in our shows, and I'm really proud of that.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. I always know. I always know for me, I'm a tiny human. I grew up doing ballet and all of these things, and I never thought for a person my size that I could ever be physically strong as well. And then coming into these shows and playing these characters, I was encouraged by and taught by the trainers how to train for my body and how to actually achieve something physically that I never thought possible. And then to play these characters that can take down the guy who's 6'4" and can stand up with the people that look physically strong and still fight like the rest of them and be a hero in the same way. And you're no longer bound by what you look like or what people perceive of you on the outside as to what is possible for you to achieve. And that's something, I always sought out those characters as a kid, but didn't always find them. And now there's such a plethora in every genre, in every medium of entertainment. We're seeing these really strong, powerful, complex women that are carrying these stories that never existed before. And it's so gratifying to be a part of that.
Definitely. I think for me personally, the characters that I saw on TV when I was growing up, it was the confident girls were always the mean girls. The girls that were like powering through with that strength were always so rude and cruel to other people. And I was like, yes, this is my character. And then I see the way that they're interacting. I'm like, no, that's not my character. Or they're drawing from different strengths. I feel like a lot of the characters I saw growing up, their strength as a woman was coming from a man or coming with permission from other people. And it's important to see these characters that are strong on their own from their own story.
100%. I think also what's interesting at the moment is, we are seeing more diversifying of characters, especially within the superhero world, actually, and the inclusion of like LGBTQ plus people as well. But one thing that needs, I think, a lot more attention is what's going on behind the camera. Because so often we're having these, these great characters written, but they're not being written by people with authentic experience of that person's life. So I think the next step is really diversifying writers' rooms and, the people who are choosing what programs are going to be put on, the people who from the top down are setting the tone of diversity. And I think that will take the characters that we are seeing represented to the next level.
That everything she just said, underline that times 100.
That actually brings me to my next question, which was, we've come so far, but where do you guys think, off of Maisie's point, we need to go still? Because you guys have all among you done projects across the CW and Netflix, which are well known for the diversity and everything that they bring to the table with their shows. But where do you guys think things need to go still?
I would agree with Maisie in that there's so many people behind the camera that we're just now seeing opportunities for directors and producers and writers and people in these positions that were normally always filled by men, now filled by so much diversity in every aspect of humanity. And that I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of female directors in the last several years, and it changes the perspective in such a way that every episode has kind of an ebb and flow, and getting as many different voices allows the show to really grow and have its own voice. And I think that's ultimately what our job is as artists, is to hold a mirror up to the human experience and question our previously conceived notions and our perspectives and go, what stories haven't been told and what perspectives haven't we seen, and what would make this story be the to its richest as we can tell it, and its most authentic and its most true, so that audiences can experience it in a way that they may not have otherwise. And that's sort of what our job is. And it's so great to see that the industry is moving forward and is starting to ask these questions. Maybe that's the one advantage of 2020.
Yeah. I think something that would help all of that is when casting, how to move forward in casting with inclusivity without tokenizing. And I think the way you do that is write these characters, and when you say you have nobody specific in mind, actually try not having somebody in mind. Like, you can write a story and the lead can be Black or queer, and the story doesn't need to be about that, is about diversifying the story and knowing that you don't have to change the story. Like, I've talked about this multiple times, and I was like, well, when you read this script, did you picture the lead being anything but a straight white man? No. It's like, you can write the same script and then cast more diversely without making, like, if you're making it a Black story, you don't have to include every Black stereotype that there is in existence. You can just have a Black person in the movie and it doesn't need to be a whole thing. So I think that's the way you can do that with women with queer characters, is stop making them a character and just cast the best person for the role.
100%. You know, we are, like, film and TV is so powerful in normalizing things, you know, because a lot of people don't have daily exposure to people from different walks of life, different genders, different sexualities, different ethnic groups. So the only way that they're experiencing diversity is through the shows that they watch. So I think we have a responsibility to be a couple steps ahead of what is happening within society so that we can help move social consciousness along and sort of develop more, going beyond just sort of acceptance and breeding like love and appreciation of our differences and celebrating those differences. But I love what you were saying, Madison, as well, because so often, you know, being queer, I see this queer sad story. And it's like, you know, yes, it is hard being queer. Yes, coming out is often a struggle, but for once, it's nice to just watch a show and just see a happy queer person where that's not the only facet of their identity that's explored. And that is really inspiring. And I think it really pushes the movement forward in terms of normalizing things.
Absolutely. I think we've definitely told our trauma story, and we've shown a lot of the hard parts about coming out and the struggles of being Black. We've shown that, and now it's time to celebrate it. We can now be like, because for me personally, I came out, my mom was like, okay. My dad was like, cool, whatever. Like, it wasn't the whole thing. And I think we need to show that so that we're not scaring these young queer people into thinking it's so traumatizing, because it can be, but there's also a lot of joy and there's a lot of reason to have pride in these things.
Definitely. I mean, like, the L word literally changed my life, because it was the first time I saw, you know, like, queer women being happy and, you know, being successful and having friends. And like, it just blew my mind when I was 16. And I was like, oh, okay, this isn't something I have to just sit in my shame over. Like, I can use this to empower me. And that was what triggered me going out to finding my community. So like, that is how important it is to show positive stories, as well as the pain of, you know, of our experiences as well.
When discussing personal things like that, do you think being in the spotlight and having the roles that you had and having the fan bases that you do and having the focus on you has made it harder to do those things? Or did it in some ways make it easier? Or did you feel some sort of responsibility to be part of that conversation rather than step away from it?
It definitely can be harder. You can feel a lot of pressure, especially if it's something that you're confused about. It's hard to speak out when you need to have a cohesive message for people who are also confused. But I think it's important. For me, I find a lot of power in showing every side of what I'm feeling. I've shown my power, I've shown my weaknesses, and I think it's important to show that balance and to humanize myself so that other people don't feel ashamed for struggling. Like, I think no matter where you're at, it's important to speak up. You don't have to have it all figured out to be an activist. You don't have to have it all figured out to be a voice of power. I think it's important to be like, hey, I'm also confused, but we can talk about that too. And here's where I'm at, here's where I'm trying to go, and have that message as well.
When it comes to playing very confident and empowered women, having these strong roles, you all have also experienced, though, playing weaknesses and their vulnerability, because that's an important part of showing a well-rounded character. So I want to know, when you're doing those sides of it, do you feel a specific responsibility or a way that you want to handle that so that you're still honoring the character by showing them as a well-rounded person who's allowed to be weak and allowed to be vulnerable within being this strong person at the same time?
I mean, I find it to be one of the most important aspects of a character who's strong. I think you have to earn it, in a sense, because everyone is, you know, even if we're playing a superhero or a supernatural creature, we're all still ultimately human at our core, and we're all flawed. And that's what's the most important thing to show, is that, yes, everybody makes mistakes, everybody has faults, everybody has insecurities, but it's how you deal with them and how you choose to react to the world and how you process them and the choices that you make that make you a hero. So yeah, we're all going to fall on our faces a million times and make a million mistakes and mess everything up. But if you can choose to do the right thing and choose to move forward and learn from it, that's what ultimately makes you a hero. And when you're playing a hero or creating a character that is, following that hero's journey, that's almost the best part, is when it's the phoenix rising from the ashes and you can see this person be triumphant even from their darkest moment.
I mean, you said it perfectly. I second all of that.
We're doing BCon obviously this way this year, and it's not how we normally do it, but for that reason, we're all separated right now. So I wanted to ask you guys what you've been doing in quarantine. I know some of you have still been working on projects and finding ways to stay busy. Kat, I know you made a movie in quarantine.
Yes, yeah, you did.
Can you tell me how that came about and what it was like doing that experience?
It was probably one of the most terrifying and stressful experiences I've ever had, but one of the most wonderful, just from the learning experience aside. A dear friend of mine, Nick Simon, who's an incredible horror director, and my friend Luke Baines, who's an actor and writer, decided to write this movie and called me and said, hey, we're going to shoot it completely safely. Nobody's ever going to be in the same room. It's all on your devices and via Zoom. Are you in? And I said, sure, why not? So we ended up shooting this fun horror comedy that it's a really interesting project. It's 6 people. We're all in our houses. And it was a very interesting process. And thank you for our incredible director of photography, who had the patience to sit there and teach 6 actors how to set up cameras and lights and sound and everything else. But it was such a fun experiment and a fun process. And I'm excited to see how it turns out.
Madison, Jessica, Maisie, what have you guys been doing to keep busy in quarantine, keep working?
Oof. I've been writing a lot. I think part of what I've really taken from especially the last few months is just how to educate myself and, see, especially being a non-Black Latina through all of this, and just knowing that I want to be a voice for our community and really express that there's so much colorism in our community. There's so many, secrets or untold conversations, and I really want to bring those to light. And so I've been writing a lot and I'm developing. And what's really important to me is that knowing that so much of what we want to do to be a change is to have those voices heard. I know that I can only do so much. And I'm really looking forward to connecting with a lot of Afro-Latina writers who want to tell their story and collaborating. And that to me is one of my most personal contributions to really helping us in the narrative and having that change in the future.
Yeah, it's been such a good time just to incubate all those ideas that you've been sort of putting on the back burner while we've been working so crazy hours. I just actually finished the Warner Brothers Directors course on Friday. It was a 2-week course that we did all over Zoom, 7 hours of Zooming a day, which was fantastic. And I have finally got my production company off the ground. We just finished our first short film right before quarantine. And the production company is Bareface Productions, and it's all about lending a voice and a space to marginalized communities. So it's all mainly focusing on marginalized stories, LGBTQ plus stories, and making sure that from the beginning to the end, everyone is diverse. Everyone who's behind the camera, in front of the camera, all the department heads, is just about telling our stories by us, which I'm really excited about.
We need to connect.
Definitely.
Yeah, I've been hanging out, I was lucky to have my show come out during quarantine. Woo! Yeah, so I I've had a lot of time to actually digest the fans' reactions and actually take it all in without it being too overwhelming, and everything's kind of happened gradually, which I'm thankful for. So I've just been on my social media and interacting with people and taking interviews and meeting new people and reading new scripts and a bunch of new things in my life right now.
Madison, that actually brings me to some specific questions for each of you. And Madison, I have to ask where we are with season 2 of Outer Banks, even though we cannot get back into production just yet. But I'm hoping there's a renewal coming soon. It was very popular. What have you heard?
We have no idea yet, but things feel pretty good. I feel confident. I'm speaking it out into existence. We have a season 2 in my mind.
Playing Kiara on Outer Banks, a big part of the show that I didn't know was going to be part of it until I really watched it. I saw it teased in the trailer, but the class conversation that happens in the show is very deep and very real, especially for a teen drama. I wanted to know, playing Kiara, you're in the middle of a lot of this, because I don't know, but I think most people are familiar with Outer Banks at this point, but Kiara is one of the rich people, but she hangs out with the kids who are on the wrong side of the tracks in this story. So you're in this middle part as that character. What is it like being the two sides of that world there?
It was a pretty easy and natural thing to play. Me personally, I was drawing from me being mixed. I'm in the South. I'm in a constant in between of two sides, not really accepted by either. And then, being pushed to one side or the other, there's like this constant need to identify as one or the other, especially in the South. So I thought that was a really important part for my character. And I think it was really special that we do have such a fun, we're on a treasure hunt in the show. We have such a fun show with this topic. It's not discussed in a dark way, but it's very realistic. When you hear Hope talking to his dad about a scholarship, and his dad's like, these kids have so many other options, and this is your one chance, and you don't get to mess it up and joke around. And you see it with Kiara, where she doesn't connect with this rich white world, and so she goes and finds her own community, which is something I had to do. I mean, I'm adopted into an all-white family, and I was born into this privilege that I didn't know didn't belong to me until I grew up. And so it was nice to take my own experiences and bring this to a character going through very similar things.
Jessica, I'm going to grill you about the same thing for On My Blog, which is just as popular a show for Netflix. What do you know right now?
Oh my God, I just lost connection. What did you say? I have no idea. No, I have no idea. And it's terrifying because it's season 3 came out in March. And this is the longest it's been. But of course, no one's doing anything. But it is kind of scary to not know if you get to see, all your best friends, again. So it's a little scary, but I'm hopeful. I really hope we don't end on the note that we did, but it would be a very, very realistic ending in the same respect. So, or I don't know anything. They don't tell me anything. We're literally Madison and I are going to know. And then the next day, everyone will know. Yeah, that's kind of how it rolls. If we say anything, Netflix execs will fall from the sky and attack us. I don't know about the CW, but that's how it works.
It's the same.
Yeah. Maisie, speaking of Netflix, you have Kissing Booth 2 coming out this week, and I know you are busy with press for that, so we're grateful to have you fit us in right now. What can you tell us about your part in the sequel, which has been a very long-awaited, the first one felt like it just came out, but people are really anticipating the sequel. What can you tell us about your part in the second film?
So I played Chloe, who meets Noah at Harvard and becomes his best friend. And she's this kind of whip-smart, passionate, vivacious woman who, any room she walks into, she just knows how to handle any situation. And Elle is a little bit confronted by this. And obviously they're dealing with a long-distance relationship. So she becomes a little bit suspicious of Chloe and Noah's friendship. I won't tell you if those suspicions are valid or not, but it was really fun to play a character whereby she is just so honestly and openly herself. And all she wants at the end of the day is to uplift and inspire everyone who's around her. And I think what the film does really well is it explores female and female friendships and male and female friendships, both platonically, and how we can actually have these incredible relationships where so often in the media, we're pitted against each other. Women are always pitted against each other. And men and women, there always has to be a degree of there being something more there. So it really challenges that, which is fun.
Kat, I'm going to ask you just as tough a question with the arrow spin off, but I'll give you a little more to go on since you won't have an answer. where is it, which you won't tell us? And 2, where do you see the CW going this year, though, with the superhero universe that has built around Arrow? This will be the first season where it doesn't have Arrow, but it still has the Arrowverse, which it is strongly continuing.
Well, what's so great about the legacy of the Arrowverse is that, yes, it started with the Green Arrow and built from there, but now there's such a huge, diverse cast of heroes. It's our league of heroes, as it were, that all work together and all have become a family, both on and off screen. What's great about, we'll see what happens with Green Arrow and the Canaries, but even the fact that we got to shoot our pilot as the penultimate episode of Arrow, and it was such a kick-ass, female-driven, cooperative effort between all of us with a female director, and it was really fantastic. I mean, we had such a fun time shooting it, and people seem to love it on air, so that will live on in the Arrowverse regardless. But even I got to be a part of the crossover this year, and just getting to see so many different folks that are such amazing heroes in their own right. We had the best time collaborating and working together. And like Maisie was saying, you don't have to pit women against each other, and men and women don't always have to be romantic. There's so many different kinds of relationships to be explored. It just leaves all of the opportunities open for that legacy to continue.
Madison, you were part of the Arrowverse, having a role on Black Lightning. I want to know if there's a chance for her to come back. Do you see any chance of Wendy returning to Black Lightning? I know we left it with a specific way where she might not, but have there been any discussions about you reprising that role?
I have no idea. Like I said, nobody tells me anything.
Maisie, you were also a part of the Arrowverse with Legends of Tomorrow, and you played not one but 2 characters over the course of your time on the show. What has it been like moving on from that? I can't imagine leaving a show that you've been such a significant part of, but also played 2 characters who were a significant part of that show.
Yeah, it was so fun because they could not be more opposite. Amaya was this very straight-laced, pragmatic from the 40s, very strong-moraled American superhero. And then Charlie is this Brit, wild child, troublemaker, total disaster, mess. So it was really fun to do 2 years of one and then to be able to start fresh with all of my relationships, on screen with Charlie and redevelop all of those connections and those bonds. People who Amaya was best friends with, Charlie was enemies with. So it was really, really fun. And I had the best time. It was an amazing 4 years. And I left so that I could spend more time with my production company, and just because I could not do it with the schedule. So it was all wonderful. And if they ever need me for a mission, I will be back more than happily. But it was right before quarantine. I left, we finished filming that season in January. So I don't really know what life is like yet. This is life still, since it's been a bit of a pause.
But that's the great thing about the Arrowverse is that, there's always opportunities. Any of us are always like, we'll jump in for a mission. We'll be there because it's such a great family.
I love that. It's true.
Maisie, with your production company, I want to know why you decided to start that and go down that path, because some actors choose to go down the producing and developing path at a certain point, and some don't. Some stay just on the camera. What was your decision to start to explore that side too?
Well, I'd always been intrigued by directing. Ever since I was at university, I directed several plays, but I'd never directed for camera. And I found that I was waiting for projects to come to me that truly spoke to me and that I thought elevated social consciousness and that were diverse and complicated, intricate stories. I travel so much, and I know the richness of life experiences outside of our sort of Western bubble. So I decided, it came to a point where I was, what's the point in waiting? Why don't I just do it? So I sort of gathered together a fantastic group of people from all different walks of life, all different experiences. And together we are building this production company. But it's important to me that it's not just, not just me directing. It's going to be a platform where other people can come and we can share our resources and share our contacts and really start telling the stories that I think that the world benefit from hearing.
Jessica, you were part of Diary of a Future President, which is a Disney Plus original, and it was renewed. So we can
yes.
love that.
I was like, was it? Okay, good. Because I was like, I know that one.
Can you tell us about being part of season 1, though, and especially working with Gina Rodriguez?
I gotta say, I've never been on a show that I got to, well, first of all, it was like a coming home because, you know, I was on Liv and Maddie for 4 years playing Willow. And I went from being, you know, everyone's like brown friend to then being able to be in a cast that was, you know, all Latino pretty much. And getting to work alongside Selenice is like, it's a masterclass. And I have to pinch myself sometimes that I even get this opportunity, because as a kid, you dream of, you know, working with these incredible actresses. Like I've had the opportunity to work with Viola. So being welcomed on a show back on Disney and then being on like a Latina Lizzie McGuire, I couldn't be happier. I was actually shocked that I was like, they knew who I was before I got there. And us as actresses, we know like what it's like to be in those casting rooms and nobody cares who you are. You've never done anything. And then you see that actress that like knows the casting person. You're like, oh, she got it. Never mind. I don't even know why I showed up. And like, once that kind of changes and people start knowing who you are, you're like, oh my God, I feel like I've like reached a certain point. So the fact that they, you know, wanted to see me for this role, instead of just being like, oh, well, sure, I don't know who she is, but we'll see her, is just, you know, it's remarkable. I'm truly, truly blessed to be a part of it. And you should watch it if you haven't. It's a little Lizzie McGuire. Come on now.
That sounds amazing.
Now I'm going to give our viewers a chance to ask questions. So let's go to the audience Q&A. We're going to get our question. There we go. Is there anything you learned from your characters about being confident and empowered that you applied in real life to yourself and that helped you?
I think one thing that I learned is that, you know, in Shadowhunters, I played a character whose journey very much paralleled my own. You know, she was a young girl thrown into an entire new world, an entire situation, and had to form a family from the people around her. And being thrown into a TV show based on a book at 19 years old, I felt very much the same. And being surrounded by the family and learning from them, as well as learning that it's okay to make mistakes and that those mistakes make you human and those mistakes help you grow. And that, you know, by making mistakes, you can reach heights that you never ever thought possible by being willing to learn from them. That balance helped me a lot in just growing up and becoming an adult.
Do you guys have an answer? Or do you want to go to the next one?
I mean, that was perfect. I think that's such a huge lesson that, you know, finding your confidence and knowing that it's okay to mess up, another one for me was leaning into my vulnerability and knowing that vulnerability is strength. Being able to be vulnerable and honest is just as valid as any other display of strength. And that's something which, you know, every superhero has to go through that dilemma as part of the superhero story. And that's something which I've also worked on in my own self a lot since then.
All right, let's see. Who is your acting inspiration?
I mean, I could give you a laundry list. Like, I seeing Barbra Streisand in Funny Girl changed my whole life, and that's the movie that really made me go, oh my God, this woman is beautiful in such a unique way, and she is the star of this movie. And she sings a song about not being the pretty girl, not being the talented girl. She's the funny girl. And that hit so hard for me. And I was like, okay, maybe this is something I can do. And then seeing John Leguizamo perform Freak on HBO, and I was like, wait, I can be Latino and have the entire stage to myself and have the spotlight. And he was actually speaking to me. You know, I still watch that special to this day. But yeah, no, I have a laundry list. I don't want to take up everyone's time.
No, yeah.
You guys?
Yeah, there's definitely people that I look up to, like as an actor, especially young actors. But this may not be answering what you're asking, but my acting inspiration is actually from my family. You know, I'm definitely inspired by my family every day. They push me, and I had all those examples from my mom growing up that you guys were talking about characters being empowered by their vulnerability, and being emotionally vulnerable is where you find your strength. And I use a lot of my personal life, mostly my family, that inspires my acting.
I love that. I feel the same way. It's something that, you know, I feel I'm so thankful for being surrounded by a family of women who never had the question of, it had to be family or career. There are these incredible, intelligent, driven women, but who are also the most loving and caring mothers and sisters and cousins. And so for me, it presented this opportunity and this perspective of, if you work hard for whatever it is that you want, you can achieve anything. Anything is possible. You don't have to pick a lane. You don't have to be one stereotype or one role or one anything. And it sort of opened up the realm of possibility to dream. And I'm so thankful for that to this day.
I love that. It's really important. Yeah. My mom's an actress. And so she is definitely my biggest acting inspiration. I grew up watching her on stage. I remember when I was 3, I went to see a production. I think it was Macbeth that she was in. And my dad just brought me in for the bow at the end because it was a little traumatic for a 3-year-old. And I saw the last couple minutes and this bow. And I just looked at my dad and I said, I want to do that. And that was it. It just gave me the bug and I took off. So yeah, so definitely my mom as well.
Well, damn, my mom too. Geez. I'm saying Barbara Streisand. Y'all are getting all emotional here.
Where's our next one? All right, there we go. From Mary Trevino, another one for everyone. How do you build up your confidence when you're feeling down?
The best advice I can give is do not slack on self-care. Don't let anybody tell you that you're being selfish. Take your time to yourself, cancel your meetings, clear your schedule, get a massage, paint your nails, do whatever you need to do that makes you be nice to yourself, whatever that means to you, whether it's meditating or putting on a full face of makeup to go to the grocery store and cover it up with a mask anyway. It's on the inside that counts anyway. So definitely take the time to yourself and be selfish because you deserve it.
It's definitely been interesting this year to try and find ways to creatively self-care, whether it's just take a walk or learn how to meditate or go sit in the sunshine for 5 minutes. It's these little moments of joy that we have to keep finding that ultimately will shift your perspective.
And for me, it's like I always ask myself, why am I not feeling confident right now? And where is it stemming from? Because I feel like, especially as children, like let's say it's a physical thing that you're not feeling confident about. I always realize that when you're a kid, you never start picking things out about yourself. You know, these are things that are brought on by other people. And like I used to, as a kid, I loved my teeth. And then as I got older, people started making fun of me for it. And I never changed it because I always loved it. And I still like think it's sexy as hell, to be honest with you. But it was really important for me to go, am I not feeling confident because I'm not feeling confident in myself because of me and how I'm feeling? Or is someone else making me feel not confident about myself for some reason? And I think that once you start seeing where it's stemming from, you're able to realize that you're really not the one that's constantly down on yourself.
And that's a skill. It takes a lot to take yourself out.
Oh, it's a daily exercise. Yeah. 20 minutes ago, I was on the ground crying. I was like, what's going on? Yeah, so don't. Yeah. Grain of salt words. Yeah.
Maisie?
I mean, all those things. And I think that one thing that I struggle with, maybe it's also partly being British, but I kind of swallow a lot of my emotions and I find it hard to share. And when I do open up to people close to me about my feelings, often they help me so much in just sort of dismantling it, because it can become this giant monster. And then someone can just sort of like pop and deflate the balloon and just like, oh, actually, you're right. They can give you perspective again. So opening up to people who are close to you that you trust, and also that it's okay. I often feel so much pressure when I'm feeling like I'm having a really bad day to like get up and do something, but it's okay if you want to just sit on the couch and watch something that makes you laugh. Like, you know, listen to yourself, find out what exactly it is that would, you know, that you need in that moment and give it to yourself. Like, don't be afraid to just, like you were all saying, like self-love. It's so important, just talking to yourself.
Let's see our next one. Mariana Coelho. I have a question from what you've learned by playing all of your powerful characters. What would you say to your 16-year-old self?
Girl.
I think the first thing I'd say to my 16-year-old self is to just stop caring so much. It's just like care even a little bit less would have helped me. You know, don't worry significantly less about pleasing other people And something that's helped me as an adult, and something I have to constantly remind myself, it's not just like I subconsciously feel this way, but is to know that whatever people that are going to connect with you are going to connect with you no matter what. So for me, I'm constantly reminding myself, I'm like, everybody that I want to like me does like me, because all the people that I want to vibe with, all the people that are going to match my energy are going to gravitate towards me anyway. So just sit back, relax, care a little less, and just go more with the flow.
100%. I agree. Just take a deep breath. Hang on, baby girl. It's all gonna work out okay. If it's not okay, it's not the end. That's sort of what I needed to hear, and I think what a lot of people even today need to hear.
Yeah. Your differences are going to become your superpower. I think, especially around that age, I was trying so hard to fit in, when it was my sexuality, and I went to private school through bursaries, so I was in a very white world, and so trying to fit in that way as well. And now those things that make me different are the things that I celebrate the most about myself, and that have led me to create some of the most fantastic friendships and interactions with people. So just really not letting sort of the word of those around you dampen your own light.
Yeah, and no one at 16 has all the answers and has all their shiznit together. So like whoever's, hurting your feelings or making life harder for you, they don't know what's going on either. And leave your eyebrows alone. Just leave them alone.
Capitalize that.
Yeah.
I know what year a photo of me was taken based on how far apart and how thin they are.
Same.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that is where we're going to wrap. So I want to thank. On that note,
Don't touch your eyebrows.
good
Yeah,
advice.
let's not leave that.
Leave your eyebrows alone.
Well, I do want to thank all of you guys for joining us today, and I really appreciate you taking the time with where we're all at. But I think this is a fantastic conversation about playing strong and empowered women. So I thank you for taking the time to be part of this conversation today. Thank you, guys.
Thank you
so much for having us.
So
Continue the
wonderful.
conversation with your friends, everyone. Just keep it going.
Yes.
Yeah.
To everyone out
you're
there.
all superheroes. I'm so happy to know you.
To everyone out there, thank you so much for joining us today, where we had Madison, Jessica, Kat, and Maisie. Be sure to check out our wrapwomen.com and sign up for our newsletter so you can be the first to know about breaking news and upcoming events, and stick with us for the rest of VCon. And be sure to stick around if you have an all access pass to discuss what we just talked about here, including eyebrows. If you want to conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies.
Ladies
over
are
the
fabulous.
And